The chief also checks another box when it comes to inclusivity and diversity at this department. She's a proud member of the LGBTQ community.
If you see an image like this and you think to yourself, oh, I sure hope it's a lesbian fighting that fire. Oh, it sure would be a shame if it was just a white dude fighting that fire. You know, I lived in Southern California for several decades. My children, three of them still live in Southern California. I used to broadcast a talk radio station on KABC in Southern California. I know my way around the place. And when I see the scenes that we've seen for the last 24 hours coming from three distinct fires, Pacific Palisades, which is right between Santa Monica and Malibu, and then Silmar, which is north of Burbank and north of downtown Los Angeles, and then in the Altadena, Pasadena area, which is sort of northeast of Los Angeles. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart because I know that most of these fires and most of the spread of these fires are the result and responsibility of failed leadership, failed one-party rule in that state. But then adding insult to injury, if you were tuning in to the live coverage last night in Los Angeles, the local Fox 11 station, they revealed something about the mayor of that fair town, which is absolutely maddening.
If you're wondering where is LA Mayor Karen Bass, she's been in Ghana. So she's apparently on her way back. That's why we have not seen her on the scene. We saw Governor Newsom at the scene earlier. We know that President Biden happens to be in town, but we have not seen him on camera with all of this.
Yeah, you usually get your photo op, right, of the governor. Newsom shows up and he literally has his hands in his pockets, his hands in the back pockets. Who does that? Who stands with their hands in the back pockets of their jeans? Gavin Newsom does. Something wrong with that guy. But you usually get the photo op, right? The mayor shows up and puts on a windbreaker with the logo of a first responder there or something, and maybe one of the hats, and gives the press conference as if they're hands-on and doing something to stop the fire, which of course we know they're not. But it's still part of leadership to be there, to be on the scene. And where is she? She's in Ghana. She's in Ghana. Karen Bass used to be a member of Congress. She sat on the Foreign Relations Committee, and I guess she's more interested in what's going on in Ghana than she is in Los Angeles. But let's face it, Los Angeles is a borderline third world nation right now. So I guess she's getting tips over there in Ghana how to bring it over the finish line and be officially 100% third world. It's despicable. Listen, it is failed leadership that's responsible for a lot of what goes on here. When I covered the latest round of fires back in 2019 in Southern California, a good chunk of the fires were all started in so-called homeless encampments. That's what they call them. These are criminal vagrants who are allowed to live wherever they want. And a lot of them live in the forests around Santa Monica, in the hills right off of Malibu. They have campfires to cook their food and to keep themselves warm. And a lot of those encampments, homeless people, as Gavin Newsom calls them, are unhoused neighbors. They're criminal vagrants and they're breaking the law. And if you enforce the laws in that state, it wouldn't happen anymore. Instead, they allow it to happen, and so it increases. It's amazing how when you don't enforce the law, more of the criminal activity continues. So they have these campfires trying to keep themselves warm, trying to cook their food. They also have propane tanks in their little encampments there. One thing leads to another. The wind blows, something catches on fire, and boom. Now, we don't know that that's how any of these fires started. I would not be surprised, though, especially seeing the Palisades fire started in those hills, in those forests, just north of Santa Monica, where there's a huge number, just above the Brentwood and Westwood lines. They've got a huge number of criminal vagrants living in their so-called encampments. Let's turn to the Palisades. Palisades is an incredibly wealthy community. And those houses, it's basically a blazing inferno right now.
My heart goes out, obviously, to the people with their homes, and I'm watching the small businesses around us go up in flames. This is people's livelihoods, so it's devastating. But what is most concerning to me is our first responders and our firefighters who are trying to battle this. There's no water in the Palisades. There's no water coming out of the fire hydrants. This is an absolute mismanagement by the city. It's not the firefighters' fault, but it's by the city. And I'm going to be very honest. We've got a mayor that's out of the country.
Let me pause here for a second just so I can give you context on this person who's calling in. His name is Rick Caruso. He's a real estate developer in Los Angeles. He just ran for mayor. against Karen Bass. Did he just run for mayor, or he's flirting with the idea of running for mayor? I'm sorry, I'm sort of out of touch with LA politics recently, but they're calling on him to run for mayor, and so he called in here to sort of hammer home the failed leadership. And you heard about the lack of water. I'll get into that in just a moment, but let's get back to Mr. Caruso here.
And we've got a city that's burning, and there's no resources to put out fires. So if you look at your pictures, you don't see the firefighters there because there's nothing they can do. And it looks like we're in a third world country here. Mm-hmm. And we've got a lot of tough questions that we need to ask the mayor and the city council and our representatives and the county representatives. Why didn't you work to mitigate this? What was your brush mitigation program? I heard you earlier talking about it's been dry because there hasn't been rain. That's not the biggest problem here. The brush up in these hills that are controlled by the city and the county, I would bet you that if they haven't been handled, mitigated, pruned, removed for probably 30 or 40 years. This was a disaster waiting to happen. And what's predictable is preventable. And who's paying the price are all of these people in their homes and their businesses tonight. Now, we'll rebuild. But the majority of this community is going to have a tough time rebuilding their lives.
That's right. Rick Caruso did, in fact, run for mayor last time around, lost to Karen Bass. He's still open to running for mayor again, he has said. He's right about mitigation policies with regard to dried brush and dead brush. We're told by environmentalists that you shouldn't do that. By the way, if you're a homeowner and you don't do that, you get fined. But if it's in city or county property or state property, oh, it's fine. Just turn away. Also, you heard about the lack of water. And you're going to hear from people, oh, it's a drought condition. Let me tell you something. We live in Southern California. You either have drought conditions, you have the Santa Ana winds, which is making these fires spread even faster and make the flames as big as you saw, 2-story houses, or you have floods. Remember when we were talking about the mudslides in Santa Barbara and Simi Valley, the mudslides in Laguna Beach and Dana Point because of all of the rain? This is what happens in Southern California. And it's not because of climate change, because this has been happening for ever, literally. No, I'm serious. I mean, they can tell forensically or geologically, they can tell when there were forest fires. There were forest fires hundreds of years ago in Southern California. This is not because of carbon monoxide emissions or carbon dioxide emissions and greenhouse gases and all that crap. Don't buy into that stuff. But they have all of these storms and all of these rains, and we have mudslides, and water is running everything, and the erosion is ruining houses who are slipping into the ocean and all that. And not once did the city of Los Angeles, the county of Los Angeles, or the state of California think to themselves, hey, let's build a reservoir and capture the water. So next time we have a drought, we've got water that we've stored from all these rains. Not once. Because, that would be anti-environmental. So we can't do that. There's been no forethought, no policies. Oh, let's hire some people to go in and clear out all of the brush and all of the dead wood. So if we have a fire, oh, we can't afford that. Hey, how about all the homeless people who are living there right now? Here's what you do. You say, hey, homeless people who are living here right now, you either put on an orange vest and pick up all of the dead wood here, or you're going to jail. How's that for a deal? It's amazing how you'll immediately recruit people to go and do that job. Karen Bass is not just a disaster because she went to Ghana and left the country while all of this is going on. Her 2025 budget has been put forth, and in it, she proposed to cut the budget for the Los Angeles Fire Department by over $17 million. By over $17 million. Now, I understand she's, cash is tight. You're not getting all those big checks from Joe Biden to bail you out because of your COVID policies anymore. And people are leaving that state, that county, and that city in droves. So your tax revenue is drying up. But maybe, just maybe, when you live in a desert, arid community where you've got, the propensity for fires, maybe you shouldn't propose cutting $17.6 million from that budget. By the way, animal services was only going to get cut by $1 million. That's pretty amazing. Street lighting, $5 million. Incredible. Thank you, Greg Price, for those details. That's part of the problem. Also, when they hired their new police chief in Los Angeles, to steer things and to inspire new firefighters to be recruited and come and join the Los Angeles Fire Department, LA Fire Department, which is on the front lines of the Palisades fire right now. Now, the other two fires, those are in the county of Los Angeles, not in the city proper. But of course, LA Fire Department personnel are deployed to help shore up LA County Fire and the local cities there as well. But the real bad fire is LA City. That's the Palisades. And who leads the LA Fire Department right now? Who leads LAFD? And has she prioritized recruiting people to come and fight fires because they're the best, most capable people to fight fires? No, this is the woman who now is the fire chief. And let's check in on what her priorities are.
I'm super inspired.
She took time out of her already busy schedule to tell us about her vision for the department's future, one that includes a 3-year strategic plan to increase diversity.
People ask me, well, what number are you looking for? I said, I'm not looking for a number. It's never enough.
Out of 3,300 city firefighters, only 115 are women right now. She's already looking at ways to change that. She's quick to point out that doing so has a greater purpose, attracting the best and brightest for the job.
Can I just say something? I'm gonna let you finish watching this LGBTQIA plus DEI fire chief, where all of those letters don't really come in handy when the city is burning down to a crisp, and you've repelled badass dudes who would love to become firefighters, but you've already projected to the world that your main priority is inclusiveness to make sure you get there is something wrong with you if you see an image like this and you think to yourself, oh, I sure hope it's a lesbian fighting that fire. Oh, it sure would be a shame if it was just a white dude fighting that fire. And I don't know who's out there all dressed up and risking their lives to save that home and save the people who live in that home. But boy, oh boy, I sure hope it's a transgender Latina. Or is it Latinx? I've lost track of that one. There is something warped in your mind if that's your focus, if that's all you care about. But if you follow the actual public pronouncements of the chief of the fire department in Los Angeles, that is, in fact, the number one priority.
They feel included, they feel valued, and they feel part of a cohesive team.
The chief also checks another box when it comes to inclusivity and diversity at this department. She's a proud member of the LGBTQ community.
That just kind of opens the door of people that thought, wow, I didn't even know that was an opportunity for me.
Yeah. Because, the LA Fire Department is all about opportunity for people. I love the reporter there for the local NBC station, literally says checks a box. She checks another box, everybody. When that's your priority, then you have problems with recruitment. You have problems prioritizing and spending your budgets on things like, personnel and making sure that you've got the right equipment to be able to fight fires. And instead, you put all of your money into DEI programs to help get certain kind of people recruited into the fire department. And then the next thing you know, Pacific Palisades is burning to the ground and you don't have enough firefighters to do the job. Here is your LA Fire Department police chief, the Grand Marshal. With George Takei as well. Grand Marshal of the Pride Parade with the mayor and with all these celebrities because they got the rainbow flags and she's in uniform. And look at, wow, tens of people came out for this parade in Los Angeles. And it's something to be really proud of. See, this is the thing. LA is super proud that this is their fire chief. Now, at the same time, the Pacific Palisades is going to be left in an ashen heap with nothing but rubble. People will die. People will be burned beyond recognition. People will lose their homes and lose their businesses. It'll cost billions of dollars. But at least you got this. At least you got your LGBTQIA++ fire chief. What does this DEI stuff really look like in personal terms? Well, believe it or not, radio host, television personality, comedian, writer, podcaster Adam Carolla faced this many years ago. This is nothing new, sadly, in Los Angeles. He was a kid just out of high school. He wanted to get a job at the fire department, and he's like 6'5" and kind of a big dude, and that would be the right job for him. So he tells his story about back before they called it DEI, but it was still the same old insidious Marxism, This is what happened with Adam Carolla when he tried to join the LAFD back then.
Geez, I want to talk about my white privilege so badly. I graduated North Hollywood High with a 1.7 GPA. I could not find a job. I walked to a fire station in North Hollywood. I was 19. I was living in the garage of my family home. My mom was on welfare and food stamps. And I said, can I get a job as a fireman? And they said, no, because you're not Black, Hispanic, or a woman. We'll see in about 7 years. And I went to a construction site and dug ditches and picked up garbage for the next 7 years. I got a letter in the mail sent to my father's house saying, your time has come to do the written exam for the LA Fire Department. I took it, and I was standing in line, and I had a young woman of color standing behind me in line. And I said, just out of curiosity, when did you sign up to become a fireman? Because I did it, or a person, 7 years ago. And she said, Wednesday. That is an example of my white privilege.
Yeah, it's a great point, and I appreciate Carolla making it. Let's just be clear here. This is failed policy. Fires are going to happen. Everybody knows that. There have been rampaging wildfires in Southern California for decades and decades and decades. And for Gavin Newsom to come out, and any Democrat, Joe Biden, whoever it is, saying, well, this is climate change, this is climate change. I don't care if you actually cut off every single internal combustion engine in the entire nation, in the entire planet. You're not going to make a difference in fires in Southern California. You're just not. That's absolute and total bullshit. And everybody knows it. It's an excuse. It's an excuse. They use these fires as a political weapon against Republicans. Basically, when they say, oh, this is climate change, but we're not getting any leadership on climate change, what they're doing is saying this is Republicans' fault, which is laughable because Republicans run nothing in California. It's all run by Democrats. It's one-party rule. It's the arrogance of knowing that you can be in Ghana when your city is burning down and you'll still win re-election because it's one-party rule. It's the arrogance of knowing that you're Gavin Newsom and you can have these fires your entire time in 2 terms as governor and 2 terms as lieutenant governor, and you do nothing significant about it to prevent it, to prepare for it, to build reservoirs, to capture water from the torrential rains that you get so that you can forego the drought season and actually have water in reserve. You can't do any of that. You can make every bad decision if you're Gavin Newsom, and not only will you get reelected, but you can then launch a presidential run for the White House. And the media will be just fine with it because it's the arrogance of one-party rule when you know that you're not going to be held accountable by anybody. This is why Kamala Harris had such a tough time running on the national stage, because up until that point, she'd never actually had to deal with either challenging questions from the media or debating an actual Republican with a brain. That's why they try to protect her right up until her White House run. This is a combination of that arrogance. It's the combination of allowing criminal vagrants to encamp in areas that are combustible and do nothing about it. They've been living and parking on the street in their RVs. They've got propane tanks. They set up fires outside in an arid area. We don't know what caused these fires, but I can tell you from experience that past fires, very recent fires in 2019, were started that way. And they still do nothing about it. Donald Trump, when he was president of the United States, visited the state of California during 2019 and said, listen, we're going to give you federal assistance, but if you don't do something to come in and clear out this brush and actually get rid of the fuel that's making these wildfires as giant and as deadly as they've been, we're going to have to cut you off. He was right. And Gavin Newsom and the Democrats and the propaganda media, they went after Trump for that, when he was objectively correct about it. There is nothing. There is absolutely nothing. You go ahead and ask them. Ask the mayor of Los Angeles when she returns from Ghana. Ask the county supervisors in LA County. Ask Governor Newsom and all of the Democrats that run everything in Sacramento. What tangible thing have you done to prevent these fires from happening and to put these fires out when they do happen? And all they'll say is climate change. All they will say is climate change. And the voters of California will continue to buy it. But you know what? I don't want to just leave this with the state of California and the dysfunctional mess they have because of the Democrats. What about this guy, Joe Biden? I want you to remember what he had to say 4 years ago when he was running for president. He actually tried to blame Donald Trump for the forest fires in California that year. And he said, basically, if you elect Joe Biden, those forest fires will stop.
Trump's climate denial may not have caused these fires and record floods and record hurricanes. But if he gets a second term, these hellish events will continue to become more common, more devastating, and more deadly. And meanwhile, Donald Trump warns that integration is threatening our suburbs. It's ridiculous.
I'm going to let him finish, but just understand what he's doing here. First of all, fear-mongering. That, Donald Trump and climate change is what's causing these fires. And if he gets 4 more years, they'll become more commonplace, which is the same as saying, if you elect me, then we'll reverse these fires, number one. But number two, I like the immigration thing. Donald Trump is telling you that immigration is threatening the suburbs. Yeah. It's funny. We just passed in the House yesterday the Laken Riley Act. Laken Riley, a young lady from the suburbs, down in Georgia, who was assaulted and murdered by an illegal alien criminal. Can we say it all together? Trump was right again. And this guy, fear-mongering his way into the White House during the 2020 presidential election, was wrong about everything. Just watch. There's more.
But you know what is actually threatening our suburbs? Wildfires are burning the suburbs in the West. Floods are wiping out suburban neighborhoods in the Midwest. Hurricanes are imperiling suburban life along our coast. If we have 4 more years of Trump's climate denial, how many suburbs will be burned in wildfires? How many suburban neighborhoods will have been flooded out? How many suburbs will have been blown away in superstorms? If you give a climate arsonist 4 more years in the White House, why would anyone be surprised if we have more America ablaze?
A climate arsonist, he called Donald Trump. Well, okay, dude, you got your way. You scared everybody into thinking that if Donald Trump were president for 4 more years, our towns were going to burn in an arson because of climate change. You got your way, and you got to pass your big Green New Deal climate change bill that you called the Inflation Reduction Act, but we know what it really was. You got everything you wanted. And take a look at Los Angeles right now. Can we stop with all of this now? Can we stop with the climate change bullshit and actually be real about fixing the problem? No, we can't. As long as Democrats can raise money and get attention by claiming that all of this is because of climate change, no one will actually fix the problem in California. And this is going to continue and continue and continue until Gavin Newsom's president. Breaks my heart. It breaks my heart because I know people in Southern California, people's homes that were threatened by these fires. I'm going to be there this weekend, and I'm going to see it for myself, and it's absolutely terrifying. One lighthearted moment, actually, that it's hard to point at, considering how severe and serious all of this was. But there's another thing you should know about the Pacific Palisades in Malibu. It's where a lot of people from the movie industry live. A lot of actors, a lot of writers and directors and producers, and just, people who have made it big, they end up living in the Palisades. They end up retiring in the Palisades, actually, even if they're not making movies much anymore. And well, that brings us to this pretty cool moment on KTLA Channel 5 when this reporter was interviewing random residents on the street about what was going on. Watch.
But I wonder if I could just make, here on Palisades Drive, if anybody has a car and they leave their car, leave the keys in the car, right, so that we can move your car, yeah, so that these fire trucks can get up Palisades Drive. Yeah. What's happening is people take their keys with them as if they're in a parking lot. This is not a parking lot. Yeah. We really need people to move their cars. So if you leave your car in Palisades Drive, leave the key in there so a guy like me can move your cars and get them up there so that these fire trucks can get up there. It's really, really important.
Thank you for talking to us live, sir. What's your name?
My name is Steve Gutenberg.
Steve, do you live in this area?
I live in the area. Yeah, I live right up the hill, and thank goodness everybody. But I have friends up there right now, and they can't evacuate because it's stuck on Palisades Drive.
Yeah, and you're an actor.
Yeah, I'm an actor.
Okay, now you look familiar. You look familiar to me now.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't look familiar to him. It's Steve Gutenberg. What is wrong with this generation? You Zoomers don't know who Steve Gutenberg is? Have you never seen Police Academy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? I think he did a 6, 7, and 8 too. All the Police Academy movies. You should binge them this weekend and educate yourself. What about 3 Men and a Baby? What about Cocoon? What about Short Circuit? That may have been the last one. He was upstaged by a robot. That wasn't good. It's Steve Gutenberg, this reporter claiming that he recognizes him. Watch what happens here, okay?
So, sir,
Gutenberg.
You're gonna watch this guy when he asks him, "What's your name?" and he says, "I'm Steve Gutenberg." Now watch the reporter, because there's a moment he's gonna put his finger in his ear. Actually, for me, it's this here. See how I've got this? See that? See that? That's, I can hear things in my ear right here. He's got one of those. It's an IFB thing. And the producer back in the studio is gonna say, "That's Steve Gutenberg, you idiot. He's an actor." So watch him hold his ear.
thank you for talking to us live, sir. What's your name?
My name is Steve Gutenberg.
Steve, do you live in this area?
I live in the area. I live right up the hill, and thank goodness everybody got. But I have friends up there right now, and they can't evacuate because it's stuck on Palisades Drive.
Yeah. And you're an actor.
Right.
Yeah, I'm an actor.
Okay, now you look familiar. You look familiar to me now.
Yeah.
You look familiar to me now. No, he doesn't. Oh boy, fame is fleeting, isn't it? You know, one day you're top of the world, raking in millions of dollars for every Police Academy sequel you do. And then the next day, what are you, valet parking there on Palisades Drive and moving people's cars around? I'm kidding, actually. Steve Gutenberg is a good man, and I'm sure he's got plenty of money. He's not a valet parker. He's just a good citizen trying to help out the fire department and move those cars. And I'll tell you what, he's doing more for that neighborhood than the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, is doing. In fact, you want to fix things? How about Steve Gutenberg for mayor? I mean, after all, he has plenty of years of experience as a cop. Increased tariffs on our trade partners, tax cuts, regulation changes. Learn why gold is a viable diversification tactic now more than ever. Birch Gold, the only gold company I endorse, is releasing their ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era, and it's got a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. To get your free copy along with Birch Gold's free information kit on gold, text my name, Larry, to 989898. Here are the facts. The national debt continues to increase. Our interest payments on the national debt continue to increase. Gold is still your hedge against a weakened dollar, and Birch Gold is still the company I recommend to help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. Text Larry, L-A-R-R-Y, to 989898. Get your free copy of the ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era. There's no obligation, only information. And I love endorsing Birch Gold because they've got an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Thousands of happy customers. You too can turn to Birch Gold. Text Larry to the number 989898. Do it today.